Hi everyone, welcome into an episode of Matt Sports Talk, and in this video we are going to be going over the updated RPI numbers, and those came out a little while ago, and this is the second to last one of the season regarding the RPI numbers, and the final ones are going to be coming out next Monday. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And then next Monday and Tuesday respectively are the final ARC and the final quad record. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for that as well. And we're to the postseason officially, and which is just hard to believe that we're already here. And the excitement is just building, and you can feel it building in the air because it is officially postseason time. It's the meat of the season. Super excited about what's to come in these next few episodes. And of course, we're recapping the Crossroads League tournament games and getting you set up for the national tournament here next week. And of course, all of that is also barring, of course, the weather, because here in Ohio, here in central Ohio, I should say, we could is the key word, could see an ice storm coming up on Thursday. So I hope that's not the case, because obviously if that happens, that is going to, basically, I'm more than likely would not be able to upload any episodes depending on how long, let's just say, the power would be out for us. But again, I hope and pray that does not end up happening, and hope that it's either snow or rain on Thursday and not the one in the middle, because obviously that would just be something that would not be a good thing in terms of recording these episodes as well. So now, in the event that it does end up happening that way, you can go to the Crossroads League website yourself, do an internet search, and then I believe the tab is women's basketball, and then if you click on schedule and then click on whatever date, the latest date for the games, of course you can view the box scores and all that good stuff. And of course, view the updated standings. Keep an eye. Now, obviously, the standings are not going to update regarding league play. It would just be for overall record at this point in the season. So again, you'll be able, you can easily view all of that yourself. And that's only in the event that I'm not able to upload any episodes later this week, heading into the weekend, and maybe even into next week. And again, I hope and pray that's not the case, because next week is national tournament time for sure. Of course, we'll have final RPIs, final ARCs, final quads. And I, of course, plan on doing a video making my final predictions for a national tournament for just the bubble teams only in the Crossroads, Mid-South, and GPAC, based off of the team statistics in terms of points per game, as well as their respectively, their final RPI, ARC, and quad records for all those teams in those three conferences, at least those on the bubble. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for that. And of course, I will be updating my. I'll definitely keep you updated regarding the weather situation on Thursday. Of course, maybe recording a much smaller video, probably on Wednesday. Of course, Wednesday I'll be recapping the Crossroads League tournament quarterfinal games on the women's side from tomorrow night. I'll be doing that on Wednesday. So obviously on Wednesday, in the event that the weather situation turns bad for Thursday, of course, I'll be sharing all of that with you on Wednesday. And again, I hope and pray that's not the case, because I really want to be able to share with you recapping the games from the Crossroads League tournament this week, as well as this upcoming weekend, and then especially for next week in the national tournament. So again, obviously, the weather's out of my control, and it is Ohio in the month of February into early March. We've had big winter storms in years past this time of the year. So again, we'll have to see how all that plays out. But definitely hope and pray that the storm track definitely changes in terms of favoring rain and or snow, because obviously I would much rather have snow or rain as opposed to ice, being able to record videos. Obviously I'd be able to do that with the snow, as long as the snow was not really wet and or heavy, because then if it was, it would obviously hamper down power lines, and I would still have that same issue. So again, all that being said, just want to give you a heads up regarding my episodes that I have planned for as we head into later this week, over the weekend, and then next week, just in the event of that weather situation. Definitely wanted to give you a heads up on that, so you knew that ahead of time, in case I'm able to not upload any episodes for a little bit of length of time. And again, I hope and pray that's not the case. So with all that being said, let's get to the second to last RPI numbers. And when you're looking at the RPI numbers were, again, of course I mentioned this before, but if you are brand new to my channel and maybe you're unfamiliar with this, the RPI, it stands for Rating Percentage Index, and basically what it does is it's not a reflection of how your season has gone. It does reflect the games that you have played over the course of your season and the upcoming games that you will play, especially now that we're officially into the conference tournaments. That RPI is going to reflect that, and it is now, of course, at the same time, it's going to reflect your strength of schedule. And again, your strength of schedule number might go down, it might go way up, depending on who you play in the respective league tournaments. So, and again, we're just talking about Crossroads League schools with these videos, but I do want to say real quick that for you to further understand how, in terms of national tournament, where you want to be and the RPI number to be either locked into a tournament, be firmly in, or be on the bubble, or being outside the bubble looking in, and or having to run your conference tournament. If you are between 1 and 30 in the RPI, you're pretty safe. You're pretty safe, especially at this point of the year, because we're entering tournament play. So obviously, if you're within that 1 to 30 threshold, you're pretty safe, which right now, in terms of your safe teams to 1 to 30, in order, you have Freed-Hardman, Bethel out of Tennessee, Marion, Campbellsville, St. Francis, Dort, Lindsey Wilson, Rio Grande, Tennessee Southern, Loyola, Evangel, Dakota State, Corbin, Georgetown, Eastern Oregon, Mid-America Naz, Friends, Spring Arbor, Southeastern, Langston, Dakota Wesleyan, Montana Tech, LSU Shreveport, Faulkner, Lewis Clark State, College of Idaho, Columbia, Concordia, Nebraska, William Carey, and Cumberland's out of Kentucky. All those teams are safely in the national tournament right now. And of course, obviously, really all 30 of them are for sure locks at this point with entering league tournament play. And then you get down to teams that are in that, if you're in that 31 to 40 area of the RPI, you're looking really good, but obviously you could use a little bit of improvement throughout these conference tournaments. And if you're 40th to 49th, you're probably in, but you're closer to being on the bubble. You're not totally in the bubble of making it one way or the other if you are in that 40 to 49 range, but if you are in that range, you probably would be in, but the only way you would get in would be as an at-large bid, more than likely. That is where, depending on, obviously how your season has gone and all that. But, if you're 40th to 49th, again, you probably are still on the bubble, but you'd be on the better side of the bubble, so to speak, if you are in that threshold. And then if you're 50th, roughly, I'd say probably 50th to 55th, you definitely are on probably the correct side of the bubble, but you would be in danger of falling down to the very end of being on the correct side of the bubble if you are 50th to 55th. And if you're below 55th in the RPI, if you're lower than 55th, you're probably not making it as an at-large bid at all. You more than likely would have to run your conference tournament in order to make it. So that's a detailed breakdown of where you want to be in the RPI. And again, the final RPIs are coming out next Monday, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So in the last RPI update, which was last week, we had Marion 5th, St. Francis 7th. Marion had a strength of schedule of 22nd. St. Francis was 20th. Their opponents' winning percentage was .563 and .577 respectively. Again, I'm not going to talk about opponents' winning percentage because the NAIA did away with that this year because it was just way too deep, and I'm definitely glad that they got rid of it, because it just didn't make sense. Because as I learned, so I'm a visual learner, so I learned this from watching other people, that you can't control your opponent's beating their opponents, because that's way too deep, and just doesn't make any sense at all to do it, to have that part as part of the criteria for making the national tournament. So it just goes off of opponents' winning percentage. And then we had Spring Arbor that was 18th. Their strength of schedule was 58th. Their opponent's winning percentage was .518. We had our next team down was Bethel out of Indiana. They were 34th. Their strength of schedule was 32nd. Their opponent's winning percentage .556. And then we had Huntington they were 38th, strength of schedule 27th, opponent's winning percentage 551. Taylor was 42nd, their strength of schedule was 23rd, opponent's winning percentage 568, and then Indiana Wesleyan was 52nd, strength of schedule was 9th, and their opponent's winning percentage was 585. Again, your opponents, or not your opponents, but obviously you want your winning percentage to be the highest. You want your winning percentage to be as high as possible. And again, when you look at your strength of schedule number, your strength of schedule percentage is going to be right next to that when you go to the NIA website to look at it. So now we get to this week's version of the RPI. And in terms of just the Crossroads League schools, it is as follows. So Marion, they are now 3rd in the RPI. Their RPI rating is 672. Their strength of schedule is 19th. And their opponent's winning percentage is 566. Last time they were 5th. 670 was their RPI rating. They're 672, so they went up slightly in that category. Their strength of schedule was 22nd last time. It's 19th this time, so that went up. Their opponent's winning percentage now is 566. Previously, it was 563, so again, that did go up slightly. St. Francis now is 5th. Their RPI rating 668. Last time, St. Francis was 7th. Their RPI rating was 664. Now it is 668, so it did go up. And again, when you're looking at this, you're going to have your RPI rank, and that's just in terms of organization. Then it goes by your team name. Then you'll have your official RPI rating, then your strength of schedule ranking, then your strength of schedule percentage, then your wins and your losses, your winning percentage on the season, and then your opponent's winning percentage. That's how all of it breaks down in the graph. And then St. Francis strength of schedule is 12th. Previously, it was 20th, so they went way up. Their opponent's winning percentage is 582, and previously opponent's winning percentage was 577. Now it's 582, so that went up. Then the next team down, we have Spring Arbor out of Michigan. They are 18th. Previously in the RPI, they also were... Okay, yeah, they were also 18th last... they were 18th last time, 18th this time. Their strength of schedule is 31st. Last time it was 58, so that went way up. Last time their RPI rating was 611. Now it is 613. Their opponent's winning percentage now is 540, and their strength of schedule is 31st. Previously it was 58th. Opponent's winning percentage, I mentioned, was 540 now. And last time their opponent's winning percentage was 518. Now it is 540, so that went way up. And again, when you look at your opponent's winning percentage, it is based off of how you have done in terms of your games, but also what your opponents have done in their own respective season. That is how the opponent's winning percentage is broken down. And then our next team in the Crossroads League is going to be, it's going to be Huntington. They actually stayed the same because they are 38th in the RPI. They were 38th previously. And this is after losing to Spring Arbor, or not Spring Arbor, but this is after losing to St. Francis by 45 points and Marion on Saturday by 35. So I really don't understand why Huntington did not drop in the RPI. Quite a shock to me, but of course I'm not the selection show committee. But they're 38th once again. Now Spring Arbor's RPI rating, I mentioned Spring Arbor's RPI rating 613. Huntington is 38th in the RPI. Their RPI rating is 584. Last time it was 589, so it did drop slightly, which makes sense with losing to St. Francis and Marion. And Huntington's strength of schedule is 15th, and last time it was 27, so it went way up. And again, that's because they host Indiana Wesleyan tomorrow night in the opening round of the league tournament. And Huntington's opponent's winning percentage is 576, and last time it was 551, so it went way up for them. So a really good sign, because this is one of the bubble teams heading into the national tournament. So again, and of course Huntington, the higher winning percentage you have is a huge part of the criteria for what the committee looks at. And of course Huntington's winning percentage obviously 615, and Indiana Wesleyan's 556. So yeah, that doesn't really help IWU, but I'll get to them here momentarily. Our next team down is Bethel. They fell 6 spots in the RPI, and now this is despite them beating Mount Vernon Nazarene, or not Mount Vernon, but beating Grace at home on Wednesday, and then of course they lost to IWU on Saturday by 7 in overtime. And so for Bethel, they fell 6 spots in the RPI. They previously were 34th. They fell 40th. Their RPI rating is 583. Last time it was 594, so that makes sense. Last time their strength of schedule number was 32nd. Now it is 32nd as well, so that did not change. And their opponent's winning percentage, their RPI rating is 583. Previously it was 594, so I alluded to that. And their opponent's winning percentage is 541, and previously their opponent's winning percentage was 556. So again, that makes sense there. And then of course I'll end with Taylor. Now Taylor, pardon me, Taylor fell to 57th in the RPI. Now, this is after losing to Spring Arbor at home and then the big upset loss to Mount Vernon Nazarene, pardon me, on Saturday. Taylor previously was 42nd. Their RPI rating was 586. Now they're 57th and their RPI rating is 566, so they took a big dip there. Their strength of schedule last time was 23rd. It is 22nd, so it did move up. They did move up one spot. Their opponent's winning percentage is 558 now. Last time it was 568, so it did. So their opponent's winning percentage did go down. And now for Taylor, again, they're literally, I think they're outside the bubble being in. So in terms of your at-large teams, Huntington, Bethel, IWU, at least right now, I could honestly see all three make it. It just depends on how the other league tournaments go. And then last but not least, Indiana Wesleyan, they are 49th in the RPI. Now, last time they were 52nd. Their RPI rating last time was 572. And again, the higher your RPI rating, the better odds you'll have at being in a national tournament. Obviously, you want to have as close to 100% or 1.00 as possible. And for the Wildcats, last time was 572. Their RPI rating, this time 576, so they only went up 0.004. Their strength of schedule number did go down one spot from 9th to 10th, but obviously that's because of playing Huntington tomorrow. And their strength of schedule percentage is 583. It's not too terribly bad. And their opponent's winning percentage is 597, and last time it was 585, so it went up pardon me, it did go up a little over 0.1%, which again is their strength of schedule and their opponent's winning percentage is the highest out of everybody in the whole entire league, not just for teams on the bubble, but teams locked in the national tournament as well. So that is an updated view of the Crossroads League teams in terms of your RPI numbers. Again, the final RPIs will be coming out next Monday once all of the league, well, not actually, that will be the morning before the conference championship games are complete, but by that time it doesn't really matter because in a way because you obviously would only have one game left, and at that time one game is not going to sway the committee looking at everybody's RPI numbers. So this is really the last really good RPI ratings that we'll have at least before next week. So again, I mentioned 1 to 30 in the RPI locked in at this point. Again, a lot of those teams in the top 30 have already locked auto bids into a national tournament. One being Marion, of course, with their win over Huntington Saturday. Dordt, they punched their ticket via an auto bid out of GPAC. Rio Grande punched their ticket via an auto bid out of the River States. Loyola out of the Southern States Conference, they punched their ticket via an auto bid. Evangel out of Missouri punched their ticket, and they are, I believe, in the, not the Sooner. I know Langston punched their ticket because out of a Sooner via an auto bid, and Evangel, I believe they're out of KCAC. They punched their ticket via an auto bid, and then Benedictine out of Kansas, they punched their ticket as being the number 2 seed in the regular season in the KCAC. And then in the Heart, you had Evangel and the second team. Who was the second team? Bethel out of Kansas. That's right, Bethel out of Kansas. They are 47th in the RPI, but they punched their ticket via an auto bid because they were number 2 seed in that conference in the regular season. So again, and then of course the other ones in the top 30, Corbin punched their ticket via an auto bid out of the Cascade. They are 13th in the RPI, and of course, I mentioned Mid-America Nazarene. I think, they punched their ticket as well via an auto bid, at least I'm pretty sure. And then, of course, Southeastern punched their ticket via an auto bid out of the Sun. And then Indiana Tech, that's 43rd in the RPI, punched their ticket via an auto bid out of the WAC. And then Olivet Nazarene, 44th in the RPI, punched their ticket via an auto bid out of CCAC. So again, there are teams down outside of the top 30 in the RPI that have already punched their tickets via an auto bid. Of course, LSU Shreveport, another team in the top 25, punched their ticket via an auto bid. Columbia out of Missouri punched their ticket out of the AMC via an auto bid as well. So again, there's a lot of teams that are down. Of course, Hope International, they punched their ticket to the national tournament via an auto bid out of the Great Southwest Athletic Conference, and they are 40. Where did I see they were at? They are 42nd in the RPI. So again, teams that have already not punched auto bids. Again, basically everybody in the top 30 pretty much locked. A lot of them already punched auto bids. Others, 31 to 40, have punched tickets via auto bids. At least a few of them. And then 40th to 49th, a couple of them have punched auto bids as well. So again, it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. And then everybody 50th or below pretty much has not clinched. And now Milligan, they are 56th in the RPI, but they punched their ticket out of the Appalachian after winning that regular season title yesterday. So they are the only exception, 50th to 60th in the RPI. They are the only team that has punched their ticket via an auto bid. Everybody else, 50th to 59th, or really 50th to 60th in the RPI, everybody else has not already clinched bids. So these teams all the way down here would be on the bubble. And then teams 61st, let's say to 68th, they are really going to have to run their league tournament to get in, and that would be Science of the Arts out of the Sooner. Williams Baptist, they are out of the AMC. Cumberland out of Tennessee, they're in the Mid-South. And then Arkansas Baptist, I believe they're out of the Continental, I want to say, but I'm not 100% sure on that off the top of my head. Then Rochester Christian out of the WAC. Texas A&M, Texarkana out of the Red River, at least I'm pretty sure. Northwestern out of Iowa. Out of the GPAC, Life out of Georgia. I'm not too totally sure off the top of my head what conference they're in. Then Brescia out of the River States. St. Thomas out of the Sun. And St. Xavier out of the CCAC. So those, and then of course everybody else, 70th in the RPI or lower, they have not punched their ticket at all. The only exception to that being Oakwood out of Alabama via an auto bid out of the HBCU. They are 73rd in the RPI, and then everybody else below them basically are not going to get in unless they win their conference tournament. So now Georgia Gwinnett College, they did punch their ticket already via an auto bid. They're 102nd in the RPI. So again, a lot of these teams down here are not going to get in unless they run their conference tournament. That is for sure. Of course, Grace and the Crossroads fell to 127th in the RPI. Mount Vernon Nazarene is 134th. And the only other Crossroads school down from here should be Goshen. And I just want to see where they are at in the RPI rating out of 226 teams. And Goshen is 157. So that is an updated view of the RPI numbers and all of that. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was very helpful to you. And again, I will keep you informed on Wednesday when I recap all of the Crossroads League Tournament quarterfinal games for the women tomorrow night. When I record that episode on Wednesday, I will keep an eye on, I'll give you an update on the weather regarding later in the week for my episodes, of course, recapping the men's quarterfinal games. That I have that planned for Thursday, but again, it also depends on the weather situation. And then, of course, the semifinal games, I plan on recapping those Saturday and Sunday, respectively. But again, all that depends on the weather. And then, of course, next week with the final RPI, final ARC, final quads, and recording an episode making my official final predictions for a national tournament based on the bubble teams only out of the Crossroads, GPAC, and Mid-South. Again, all that's going to depend on the weather situation later this week. So again, make sure that you stay tuned for that. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so down below so you do not miss out on any of this excellent content that I'll be sharing with you over the next month, as all the way through a national tournament, because this is the place to be regarding that. So again, there's going to be lots of great content to share with you over the next month or so. I'm super excited about it and cannot wait to dive into it as we officially are in the postseason. We're getting closer and closer to Nationals. Again, I could not be getting more excited about that. It's going to be absolutely amazing. My first full season of Matt Sports Talk. It's been an absolute honor and a blessing to be a part of it with you, and I cannot wait for what's to come as we finish up officially season 2 of Matt Sports Talk. But as we officially finish the first full season of it, can't wait to dive into that, and I will see you on Wednesday. Cannot wait. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.